The sheriff ordered Ethan to arrest Elena for murder, but the arrest warrant was dated 1 day before the victim was even found dead. Then Elena revealed something that made Ethan question everything, and the evidence he discovered pointed dangerously close to the sheriff himself. What happened next? Watch the full video and subscribe to our page to find out. Before we start the story, tell me in the comments, where are you listening from and what time is right now? By sunrise, Ethan Cole was already riding toward the eastern edge of Red Creek. The road was dry and dusty, and the morning wind moved through the last cottonwood trees beside the trail. Ethan was 35, broad-shouldered from years of ranch work, quiet by nature, and careful with every decision that could change another person's life. Inside his coat was an arrest warrant. It ordered him to arrest an Apache woman named Elena Redbird for the murder of ranch owner Thomas Bell. Sheriff Amos Vance had given him the order before dawn. "Arrest her, no questions, no delay." But Ethan had noticed something that bothered him. The warrant was dated yesterday. Thomas Bell had been found dead that very morning. Ethan pulled his horse to a slower pace. How could a warrant naming a murder suspect exist before the murder was even discovered? 6 miles outside Red Creek, Ethan reached an abandoned water station. Broken wooden boards creaked in the wind. A rusty tin cup rolled across the porch and stopped beside a post. Then he saw her. Elena Redbird sat quietly beside the old water trough. She wore a faded brown dress, a worn blue blanket around her shoulders, and her dark hair was tied back against the wind. She did not run. She did not reach for a weapon. She simply looked at Ethan, almost as if she had been waiting for him. "Are you Elena Redbird?" She nodded. "You know why I'm here?"
"I imagine the sheriff told you."
Ethan unfolded the warrant. "You are accused of killing Thomas Bell." Elena looked at the paper, then at him.
"Did he tell you where I was when it happened?"
Ethan paused. "No."
"Did he tell you who saw me?"
"Someone did."
"Who?"
Ethan lowered the paper. "I don't know." Elena quietly opened a small leather pouch beside her. She placed a folded piece of cloth, a brass button, and a small wooden token on the trough.
"I found these near the creek this morning."
Ethan picked up the brass button. It carried the insignia of the county land office. "Where?"
"Half a mile from Thomas Bell's ranch."
"You were there?"
"I was passing through. A family near the creek needed medicine."
Ethan studied her hands. They were covered in reddish dust. Not blood. Clay from the creek bank. Then Elena told him something that changed everything.
"Thomas Bell was alive when I saw him."
Ethan looked sharply at her.
"He was standing beside his fence. He looked afraid. He told me to leave before someone saw me."
"Why?"
"He said people were looking for him."
Ethan looked again at the warrant. Elena continued.
"Someone also warned me to leave the creek before sunrise."
"Who?"
"A man wearing a silver star."
"Did you see his face?"
"No, he stayed in the shadows."
Ethan looked at the ground. A fresh boot print was pressed deep into the dirt. Its heel had a narrow metal edge. He knew that pattern. Sheriff Amos Vance wore boots with the same iron heel plates. Ethan slowly stood.
"Do you believe me now?"
Elena asked. Ethan looked toward Red Creek. "I believe something is wrong." Instead of putting the warrant away, he kept it in his hand. By late morning, Ethan and Elena entered Red Creek. People watched from dusty windows. Men near the general store suddenly became very quiet. Sheriff Vance waited on the courthouse steps with 2 deputies. "Cole," he said, "I expected you to bring her in." "I did." "Then hand her over." Ethan did not move. "I have questions." "Questions can wait." "Not these." Ethan held up the warrant. "This was signed yesterday." "Yes." "Thomas Bell was found this morning." "Yes." "Then how was Elena named in a murder warrant before anyone knew he was dead?" The courthouse square became silent. Vance's face remained calm, but his hand tightened around his hat. "The clerk may have prepared it early." "For a murder that had not happened?" Vance's eyes hardened. "You are making a simple matter complicated." Then Ethan noticed young Deputy Caleb Morris looking down. Caleb was only about 25. He had worked beside Ethan before. When Ethan caught his eye, Caleb quickly looked away. Someone knew something. Ethan turned back to the sheriff. "Where is the county judge?" "Out of town." "Since when?" "Yesterday." Ethan remembered the date on the warrant. Then Elena noticed an old paper partly hidden beneath another notice on the courthouse wall. She pulled it free. It was a land document. Thomas Bell had been preparing to sell his property 3 weeks earlier. At the bottom was the name of Amos Vance. Ethan stared at it. The sheriff had been negotiating for Thomas Bell's land before Thomas died. Now the murder began to look less like a random crime and more like a plan. Ethan and Elena went to the general store to learn more. The owner, Walter Pike, had known Thomas for 20 years. When Ethan asked about him, Walter quietly brought out an envelope. "Thomas left this with me yesterday morning," he said. "He told me to give it to the first person who asked the right question." Inside was a rough map of Red Creek. 3 places were marked: the courthouse, Thomas Bell's ranch, an old feed warehouse near the river. There was also a message: "Find the ledger before they do." Before Ethan could speak, Caleb entered the store. His face was pale. "You need to listen," he whispered. "To what?" "Sheriff Vance knows about the map." Ethan's eyes narrowed. "How?" "I heard him talking to Silas Mercer this morning." Silas Mercer was the county land agent, the same man connected to the land documents. Caleb swallowed. "There is more. Thomas Bell came to me the night before he disappeared." "What did he say?" "He said if anything happened to him, the woman everyone blamed would be the only person who knew where the real evidence was." Elena looked at the wooden token. She turned it over. A tiny number was carved into the back. Ethan looked at the map. The same number was written beside the old feed warehouse. They left immediately. The warehouse stood near the river, hidden behind cottonwood trees. Inside, Elena found 3 small marks beneath an old lantern. Ethan lifted a loose floorboard. A wooden box was hidden underneath. Inside were land records, a thick ledger, and an old silver sheriff badge wrapped in cloth. Ethan froze. It was his father's badge. His father, Jacob Cole, had once been a lawman in the area. A small note was tucked beneath the badge. Ethan unfolded it with shaking fingers. Only 6 words were written. "Ask who owns the land beneath you." Ethan opened the ledger. Page after page showed property names, payments, and transfers. Thomas Bell's name appeared repeatedly. So did Amos Vance and Silas Mercer. Many families had signed agreements believing they were temporary loans or simple land deals. But the contracts were being changed. Their properties were quietly transferred to the same private company. Then Ethan found Thomas Bell's final entry. Thomas had written, "They will blame the Apache woman because nobody in town will question the story." Elena stared at the words. Her eyes filled with anger, but she remained calm. "He knew," she whispered. "He knew they would use you," Ethan said. Suddenly, a wagon wheel creaked outside. Someone was coming. They waited until the wagon disappeared, then left the warehouse with the ledger hidden beneath Ethan's coat. But they still needed a witness. Caleb remembered a young boy named Samuel Pike. Samuel had seen something at Thomas Bell's ranch. They found him hiding in the old schoolhouse. Samuel finally told them the truth. He had seen Silas Mercer speaking with Sheriff Vance at Thomas's ranch. He also had a copy of a property agreement. It showed that Thomas's land would automatically go to Mercer's company if he failed to repay a debt by the following day. Thomas had discovered the plan. Samuel handed Ethan a note Thomas had written. "If they cannot take my land legally, they will make the town believe someone else took my life." Ethan finally understood everything. Thomas Bell was killed because he discovered the land scheme. Elena was chosen as the perfect person to blame, and the sheriff's impossible warrant proved that the plan had been prepared before Thomas's death. But Ethan knew evidence meant nothing if it never reached honest authorities. So he returned to Red Creek with Elena, Caleb, and Samuel. The courthouse square was already filling with people. Sheriff Vance stepped outside. "You were ordered to arrest her," he said. Ethan looked at him. "I was." "And?" Ethan pulled the old ledger from beneath his coat. "And now I know why." Silas Mercer appeared behind the sheriff. For the first time, both men looked afraid. Ethan laid the ledger, land agreements, Thomas's note, the brass button, and the old badge before the gathered townspeople. Caleb stepped forward and gave his testimony. Samuel did the same. Walter Pike confirmed the envelope. One by one, the sheriff's story collapsed. The people of Red Creek finally saw what had been hidden from them. Vance had used his badge to protect a land scheme. Mercer had changed property agreements. Thomas Bell had discovered them, and Elena had been chosen as the scapegoat. The truth did not arrive with gunfire. It arrived through records, witnesses, and one honest lawman who refused to obey a lie. Sheriff Vance and Silas Mercer were removed from power and forced to face the evidence against them. But the story did not end at the courthouse. It continued at the creek. Elena had spent years being treated as an outsider. She had been judged by what she did not own: land, money, power, or a family name respected by the town. Ethan believed that had to change. Near Whitmore Creek stood an old abandoned cabin. He repaired it with Elena. He never told her that she belonged there. Instead, he said something simpler. "You can have a place beside me, never beneath me." Elena looked at him for a long moment. Then she accepted. The people of Mercy Creek slowly began to change too. Martha brought bread. Amos brought nails. Mrs. Talbot brought thread. Children brought small gifts. Even people who had once stayed silent began helping. Elena repaired an old medicine bag with pieces of blue, red, yellow, and white thread. Each stitch came from someone she had helped. The little bag became a quiet reminder that kindness could cross boundaries that prejudice could not. Ethan placed a wooden sign beside the creek. Water for those in need. No one needed permission to drink from it. Months passed. The creek became a place where travelers stopped. Farmers rested their horses, and children from different families learned together. Silas Mercer lost his influence. People stopped trusting him. Eventually, the county formally recorded the creek easement. The road could not be blocked. The creek could not be closed. Then someone carved another line beneath Ethan's sign. Mercy Creek belongs to everyone. When winter came, the cabin had 2 chairs beside the stove. The old iron key hung above the table. Elena's medicine bag rested beneath it. One morning, Martha arrived with official papers. The creek was now legally protected. No one could take it away for debt. Clara, the school teacher, later brought books and a brass bell for the children. Even people who had once been divided began sharing the same road, the same water, and the same future. One spring morning, Ethan and Elena stood beside the creek before sunrise. The water moved quietly toward the valley. "Do you miss the road?" Ethan asked. "Sometimes," Elena said. "Do you miss being alone?" She looked at him. "No." That was enough. The frontier had not suddenly become perfect. Old prejudice still existed. Some doors remained closed. But one small place had changed. A poor person could still have dignity. A stranger could become family without giving up who they were. And justice did not need a gun or a shout. Sometimes justice came quietly, in an old document, a hidden ledger, a brave witness, and one person willing to ask the question everyone else was afraid to ask. The creek kept flowing. The door stayed open. And for the first time, Elena did not have to ask anyone for permission to belong. Thank you so much for watching this story all the way till the end. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button and share it with your friends. It really helps us a lot. If you want to watch more exciting stories like this, don't forget to subscribe our page right now. Tell me in the comments, where are you listening from, and what time is right now? And if this story touched your heart, please send some stars. Every single star gives us huge motivation to keep creating more amazing videos for you. See you in the next story. Take care of you, friends.